Okay, so welcome to this seminar on feminist AI. I'm glad that we have 19 participants online. Just a quick review, I can see that we have members of our strategic communication office. I can see in the chat also members from the graduate research and studies school, a number of members from the School of Arts and Science, and we also have representatives in the room from the School of Business and the Arab Institute for Women. So I want to thank everyone that's joined us. I do want to let you know that this meeting is being recorded, and I want to welcome you to this very special seminar being held in collaboration with the Arab Institute for Women, which is very much interested in feminist AI, and the Center for Innovation and Learning that is part of coordinating a task force on AI at LAU for both teaching and research. So as I mentioned, we have many different representatives in the room, which shows the deep interest in this topic at LAU. So today we're honored to welcome Dr. Nagla Rizk and her students to Lebanese American University. Dr. Rizk is a professor of economics at the American University in Cairo and serves as the founding director of the Access to Knowledge for Development Center, as well as the founder of the MENA Observatory for Responsible AI. Today's talk will first discuss inclusive AI and why it's needed, and then present what is feminist artificial intelligence. The seminar will also introduce the LAU community to the Feminist AI Research Network's MENA Hub, established for investigating the role of digital technologies and innovation in promoting inclusive development across the Arab world. This timely discussion builds on a long history of digital feminist activism, including from the MENA region. And since the early days of the internet, feminists have harnessed the power of digital technologies to embolden their activism, and feminists have advocated for more inclusive internet policies. Here at LAU, we teach something called the Feminist Principles of the Internet. This happens in a course called Media and Gender. So feminism helps us complicate the politics of technology to help us understand how AI, like all other technology, is never neutral or unbiased. So we look forward to learning more from Dr. Rizk about her work that seeks to expand research of feminist AI in the MENA region. So welcome, Dr. Rizk. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Gretchen. Hi, Haven. I see some my students. I'm just saying hello, everyone. It is a real pleasure to be here. I'm very grateful for the invitation. I'm especially grateful to the Lebanese American University, the Arab Institute of Women, Center for Innovative Learning, the School of Business, to give this talk. Allow me to share my screen, and I am going to proceed with more information about myself, our work, and more insights about what feminist AI is. So I am going to now share my screen and hope that works very nicely. So fingers crossed, here we go, share. Oh, okay, so I'm just going to present, allow me, yeah, so, okay. Okay, can you see my screen? Yes?
It's perfect, thank you.
Thank you so much. So again, thank you very much for inviting me. It's a real pleasure, and it's about time, we have a collaboration between our different universities and centers. Today, I am here to talk to you about what is feminist artificial intelligence, and the title talk on growing the Feminist AI Research Network, MENA Hub. Now, the outline of my talk will be really, why do we need feminist AI? So I'm not going to delve into a definition. I'm going to think with you. I want to do this, I'm a university professor and I'm in an academic environment, so my students will know that I like to develop content as we go. So why do we need feminist AI? I'm just going to start with examples from what we see in the world around us. I'm going to talk about unpacking AI a little bit. Then together we will see why we need AI, feminist AI. What is feminist AI? The definition that responds to those needs, principles of feminist AI, global examples of some feminist AI solutions, and then I will also talk about examples from our work at the center, at the Access to Knowledge for Development Center. our work as the Feminist AI Hub for MENA since September 2022 and work on our observatory. Then I will provide a conclusion. So first, what do you see when you go on Google search and search for the word doctor? You find, we've counted them, 36 out of 100 images come of females, women, 36 out of 100 doctors. With nurses, 83 out of 100 images include women for nurse. When we search for the word domestic helper, 96 out of 100 images show of have females, women. Okay, this is what I mean. A very simple search on Google. Software developer, we get 29 out of 100 images include women. Now, Google Translate the word professor in Arabic, ustad. It is a male professor. Immediately it comes out in Arabic as ustad. Doctor, tabib, male doctor. Nurse, mumarrida, female nurse. Okay, so these are things that we see around us. Let me.
Hello, I'm your Google Assistant.
I'm Alexa.
I'm Erica.
I'm Bixby.
When you go on the gendered virtual assistants, you find that they are women. Okay, indeed, there was an incident with Siri when the voice is demure and docile, and there is a specific incident.
I'd blush if I could.
When Siri received the sexist remarks, and this is what Siri said: "I'd blush if I could." The assistant is a female. Now, so the first example, I want to give you some simple examples that we live. The first example are the generative AI stereotypes, the biases in the images, in the languages, in the roles that we see around us. Next, other examples. Let's look at the world of work and CVs. If AI is used for screening applications for work, what do we get? An example in 2018, there was the Amazon's hiring tool, which scored applicants from 1 to 5 stars, and it was found to bias more male candidates. They were preferred from within the system because the data that the algorithms were trained on were mostly male-dominated tech industry resumes. There were also women in gig work. We run several research activities, and I'll talk about our work later at the Access to Knowledge for Development Center on gig work in Egypt, in Morocco, in Tunisia, in Jordan, in Lebanon. Actually, we have partners. And the problems that face women in gig work, algorithmic harms that take place against women in gig work. If bonuses are counted based on the number of hours that go into ride sharing. So women live under the myth of flexibility and that this is great work for them, so they can work at flexible hours, which perpetuates gender norms, which is another story. But at the end, they put in less hours than males. So when it comes to bonuses, they're always at the tail of the list. This is just one example. Other examples relate to safety, because women are under such pressure to perform and to earn. What they do is they choose the surge hours, they go in remote areas, and quite often in our part of the world, they are not, the connectivity is weak, and they are then subject to safety and security risks that face them because they are women. More so, I mean, it faces both genders, but women are more likely to face such kinds of risks. I have plenty of examples from our work and from work of our partners. Another third example in the world of credit, there was an Apple Card scandal in 2019 where the algorithm granted men 10 to 20 times higher credit limits than their wives, despite shared assets. And this stemmed from the systemic bias in credit scoring models and structural flaws in how financial data is weighted. Historical data of earnings, again, of course, these are digital biases, but they tend to perpetuate and exacerbate analog, what I call analog biases on the ground, create some of their own, but still they perpetuate analog biases because at the end of the day, women, just like they give less hours for work, they give less hours for incomes. Their incomes are less, and their history of work and credit is less, and their ownership of assets is less, especially in our part of the world. In the MENA region, some parts I do know, in the some parts of remote areas of Egypt, women just don't inherit. They are denied their inheritance. So at the end of the day, the ownership of assets is lower. That if we use the algorithm to treat everyone as a number, at the end of the day, they are going to fall at the bottom of the scale. So in that case, the incident was using historical data on incomes, proxies on incomes. Of course, women their careers are interrupted because of their roles as caregivers for children and other members of the family. Non-wage income, caregiving roles, individual. So the assessment was individual despite shared assets. So at the end of the day, it was a scandal for the Apple Card in 2019. Let's take another example with health. The early versions of the Apple Health data, they just totally lacked a menstrual tracker. And not surprisingly, it was developed by men. No offense to men, but at the end of the day, I'm going to look at all of these, take these examples to move forward. So other examples actually with health data in particular, I was looking into research on heart attacks and with AI diagnosing heart attacks. There are analog biases on the ground. And I found two papers, with abstracts. I confess I haven't read the full papers, but I read the abstracts and the conclusions. And one of them tells us that women generally are 50% more likely to be misdiagnosed with a heart attack, even though they carry the same risk of developing cardiovascular disease as men. And usually they would be misdiagnosed as gastrointestinal or anxiety-related symptoms. So they had the risk factors under-considered by physicians. Another paper tells us when this was put, another paper using LLM to reproduce, to see whether AI reproduces existing gender biases with clinical data, the conclusions were actually that the biases are still there and maybe even perpetuated. Again, women's chest pains symptoms may be more frequently undervalued as being physiological compared to men's, and physicians are more likely to view men's symptoms as physical and women's as psychosocial. So looking at all of this, all of these, I've given 4 examples. We've looked at gendered roles in images and Google search and in virtual assistants. We looked at the world of work, hiring, credit, health data, just as examples. Then let's see what's happening. I mean, let's unpack this technology. There is there are 3. I think of it. I always frame my work on this as a very simple framing, but useful. It works: data, algorithm, and people. So let's look at what's happening with data. What I've written about, I wrote a chapter and I learned a lot doing that on AI and inequality in the MENA region. It is in the Oxford Handbook of the Ethics of AI, and I invite you to look. It's available online. And in that process, I came to witness examples of that type. And what I call a data blur. If data is not disaggregated, it's not looked at, it has to be anonymized, but it has to be disaggregated intelligently, then this kind of blur will, like health data in particular, can create faulty results. There is the fantastic book by Caroline Perez, Criado Perez, called Invisible Woman. And she gives examples from the invisibility of women just in our everyday life. And I remember clearly the example of the piano. I play the piano, and pianos are designed with assuming that all the players have equal sized hands. And obviously there is a gender bias there, right there and on. But what I call data blindness, and really what happens is if you are invisible in data, you are invisible in policy. I'm unpacking all of this technology and what works. And the problem here is with every component of the artificial intelligence value chain, there lies a trigger for inequality and bias in the data, the algorithm, and even the people. And I'm going to address this in a second. I give you an example from our own work. During COVID, in Egypt, there were good intentions, cash handouts to informal workers. So I'm going to walk you through those steps, how it was done. And I want you to imagine that you are a female informal domestic worker in Egypt. Okay. So first of all, where are you in this, story? First of all, it was the data landscape was able to capture 2.5 million workers, whereas in reality, the figure is estimated to be 20 million informal workers. Then those who qualified were those who had IDs that were on the IDs was written irregular work, عمالة غير منتظمة, which is those who will not qualify are those who had nothing on work. They will not qualify. Okay. Then the application work, listen to this, was available online in Egypt. Okay. And there are anecdotes of civil society groups who are actually helping women, download these and filling them out, or going online and helping them fill it out, because you can imagine with the digital divide and the gender digital divide, the connectivity, the level of connectivity, and being able to fill something on this online, look at the barriers. And then reimbursement via smart cards at the ATM machines, another barrier. And then the work categories on the form that the people were supposed to fill was what? Carpenter, welder, etc. So these are male jobs. Okay, so just imagine where, the layers of exclusion that you find in something like this. And if you're invisible in the data landscape, you're invisible in policy. So let's look at the algorithm. Algorithms are black boxes. We would want them to be explainable and we want decisions based on algorithms to provide accountability. But then again, of course, they have to be explainable to the lay person. Okay, and how many of us will be able to understand? But at least you need an ecosystem, and that's something else we can talk about later. So at the end of the day, they're black boxes, and algorithmic harms can happen unended. I mean, endlessly. I have given some examples, but there are plenty more. So should we hope for humanizing the algorithm? I would hope so, right? What about people? So look at data, algorithm, and people. Who designs? Who owns the algorithm? Who owns the technology? And who benefits? These are people who are in the process, the different stakeholders, the beneficiaries. Are they really part of the decision? Are they included in the decision in building the technology? So we look at all of this and we start thinking, not only that, but as I mentioned, there are analog challenges that get amplified by the digital technologies, and of course, the context. So add to all of this, of course, what is coming, we know that we are, we have a digital divide, a gender digital divide. We have again, the cultural pressures and norms of placing women to undertake particular roles. I recently wrote a paper. It's in progress to be published. Titled "Caught Between a Rock and a Hard Place" about women in gig work. They're caught between the norms and the cultures that place them in a corner, and also the additional challenges that come from the gig work algorithms and policies, etc. So context matters. And again, I remind you that in our part of the world, as MENA, we have the highest global rate of female unemployment and the lowest global rate of female labor participation. So we need to think, when we think of building technologies, women in technology, all of these need to be at the back of our minds. So this is why we need the feminist AI. Why? Because we need to correct for these tremendous harm. We need to be inclusive. I will show you the definition. I have so many definitions of feminist AI, and having looked at these problems, let me share with you what the definition is, and this will be self-explanatory. I mean, because of, again, I repeat, in every component of the value chain of the technology, there is a trigger for bias, for inequality. So there is a problem. We have issues, and we need to do something about it. Okay. So I will read a few slides. They have several definitions. I tried to capture, so this is a compilation, what I think, and compilation also of several resources. So it refers to the act of deconstructing oppressive systems, dismantling historic biases and ingrained inequalities, then building inclusive AI structures that are based on principles of justice, transparency, agency, pluralism, and more. These are bits and pieces from different definitions. I try to highlight the key words. Transformational, course of action, uses the framing of a gender lens. So it is more confrontational, more proactive. Takes the gender lens as a framing, but it really takes taking action to correct for biases, not just mitigate them, to bring change. Proactive steps, dismantle patriarchal structures, oppressive systems, historical inequalities inherent in technology and society, the digital and the analog, construct new inclusive systems. Sorry about the repetition, but I love these expressions. I just thought I'd share them with you, that overcome biases and threats based on feminist principles, a holistic approach, break down ingrained structures, tackle issues from the roots at the core, and ensures diversity and representation and justice in the building, deployment, and impact of AI. Our center, the Access Knowledge for Development Center at the Onsi Sawiris School of Business at AUC, we started serving as the MENA Hub for Feminist AI Research Network. We call it Feminist AI for short. In September 22, we finished the current phase, and we are in the process of developing what we are going to do next. So I'm quoting here the definition of the network of feminist AI. So I'm just going to highlight the keywords: pro-social, designed with inclusion at the core, creating new opportunities, innovative correction of inequities, bringing social programs in line with the 21st century, united in finding ways to make AI and technologies gender transformative. Transformative is a very important keyword. Not merely, acknowledging biases, but correcting for them. The principles, I was thinking, I'm really excited to learn about the work that's happening at LAU and the feminist principles of the internet, and I'm really delighted, and I want to maybe in the Q&A, learn more about that. But when I thought of the principles, there's plenty of keywords, important principles. But I went back to responsible AI because, as you know, we are the MENA Observatory on responsible AI, and we have a lot of that at the core of our work. So the definition of responsible AI is the ethical development and deployment of AI systems uphold human rights, dignity, and fundamental freedoms while minimizing harm, ensuring fairness, transparency, and accountability. This is we can call it a generic responsible AI. So in looking at the principles and the definitions that are developed by global organizations, this is research that we do at the Observatory for other purposes. But I thought I'd share this with you because it shows us, our team at the center has done a fantastic job of compiling, synthesizing the different principles of responsible AI and, taken from the different sources. And basically, I was going through them, and I thought that the first three, fairness and mitigating bias, transparency and explainability, accountability and responsibility. I'm not estimating the value of all the other principles, but I pulled these three, and I would add pluralism, inclusivity, agency, and intersectionality. That's what I think would be the feminist AI principles. And I'm very eager to learn again about the work that is happening at the LAU. So let's look at global examples of feminist AI solutions. I did some research, and then I'll share with you what we work on. I found an IQ gender-neutral voice assistant that is correcting for the gender stereotype. That's one. In the world of hiring, I came across IBM. IBM has an AI Fairness 360 toolkit that detects, understands, and mitigates the gender bias. And it uses like a scorecard of metrics and algorithms developed by the research community. And that is important because AI is a multi-stakeholder endeavor. It is not only for technologists. And I also came across the Unilever's Pi metrics that uses games to assess candidates. Also, other approaches, gender-neutral tools, auditing for gender fairness, getting their algorithms audited, anonymized resumes to prevent bias. By the way, I have a student doing research on AI in hiring in my class. Tools designed to detect, understand, and de-bias, independent bias audits. These are just examples. With credit, again, I came across Dalberg, a company that audits financial algorithms for bias, partnering with banks in Kenya. But Synapse Analytics is a company we work with. It's a fantastic AI company with great perspective, with inclusive AI, responsible AI, feminist AI, and I share their module for the platform for credits, where they have fully explainable decisions. It's called Conan, and has alerts for bias and data drift. Looking at health, I also came across an AI pilot project by PwC Germany, again aiming to develop gender-specific AI application to detect heart attacks in women especially, and recognizing gender-specific symptoms. If I may share also a couple of examples from our larger network under the FAIR network, the Feminist AI. Our partners in Latin America supported the development of La Independiente, which was a platform that adopts feminist methodology, and it has an intelligent conversational agent, chatbot, to facilitate conversation and safety for gig workers in particular and help them organize. So this was developed from within the project. And also another initiative, Safe Her, by our partners in Asia, is also, again, a prototype for ensuring safety on Manila's public transport systems. From our work, let me say we are, again, the center, A2K4D for short, Access to Knowledge for Development. We served as the MENA Feminist Hub. We run other projects, but I will focus on the ones that address today's topic, and the MENA Observatory on Responsible AI, which is the flagship initiative where we house everything that we do with support. We're grateful to the support of Canada's International Development Research International Development Research Center, IDRC, for supporting our MENA Observatory, which we started just a year ago, and it houses all our work on responsible AI. But it is very important that we also have a permanent window for feminist AI on the observatory. We have a group of a sort of a horizontal line of squares that has gender and AI with a specific window dedicated to feminist AI, and I'm happy to share that with you also shortly. Now, giving you some examples from our work of the projects governing responsible AI and data in the MENA region, again with support from Canada's IDRC. We led research projects in these countries, Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt, Lebanon, and Palestine, on governance of health data for women. We believe this is something of utmost importance. So this is a project where the outputs of this project, as research pieces with research on the ground and policy briefs, all is being published on the observatory. Its final editing is taking place these days. We also did a lot of work on gig work, cloud work, new forms of work in Egypt and in other, again, in these countries highlighted on the screen, Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt, Jordan, and Lebanon, looking at fair work practices for everyone, but also we keep an eye on the gender angle. We also work with female informal digital entrepreneurship, again, engaging and training and raising the skills of female entrepreneurs. This is a study that we did a few years back, looking at gender analysis of ride sharing perspectives from Cairo and Egypt, and it was published a few years ago, I think 2018 or 19. Within the Feminist AI Network specifically, we were the latest addition to the network that has been working for a good few years before us. But from within that, we supported the development of a project with Dr. Marwa Saudi, who is now actually our consultant on gender, an explainable AI-based tutoring system for upper Egypt community schools. For those of you who know Egypt, Said is a really conservative part of the country, and girls may not automatically go to school. So when they do, the class may have students of different ages. So Dr. Marwa, she developed an intelligent tutoring system using AI for teaching math in Arabic, tailored to the students. And it was really a very interesting project. And we also have a paper by also Dr. Layla Sar and the Network of Arab Women in AI, working on feminist data and MENA languages, developing feminist AI tools for MENA languages. Again, this is the observatory. This is what you will see when you, the opening page of the observatory. And let me see if I can, okay. It is meant to inform, shape, and monitor policy making and practice related to the responsible use of AI for development and inclusion in the MENA region. This is really what the mission and the vision for our observatory, to be a catalyst for change, inclusive, dynamic, locally driven platform, effective tool for policymakers, vibrant hub for responsible AI, and a knowledge source on responsible AI. It's really what we're working on is responsible AI for policy, practice, and people in the region. So I'm also happy to say that I'm teaching a new course next fall titled Feminist AI. It just got accepted, so I'll be doing that next fall. Technology, gender, and development. So I'm, again, very happy to engage with its experiential learning. So students get to engage with our research and our partnerships and workshops. I'll be very happy to engage with different groups at the Lebanese American University in joint activities. So really in all of this, what we've looked at, I think my conclusion here is that AI and related technologies are progressing at an exponential rate. And so are the associated and actual benefits and harms. So we should not forget, I mean, it's not a one-way negative. Of course, we know the paradox of technology. Technology has incredible power to potential to advance, to promote the sustainable development goals, including gender equality and inclusion. But also technology, the flip side is it has a tremendous potential for harm, creating harm. And even affecting equality, inclusion, and even survival. So women and marginalized communities, they bear the brunt of this and the perils of the technology. The technology has a promise and has a peril. And in every component of this value chain, as I mentioned, data, algorithm, people, there lies a trigger for inequality, for exclusion, for bias. And this affects, the impacts people directly, but also influences actions and decisions that can have longer term repercussions. So the speed at which the technologies are progressing is also very fast, and the scope of the reach are incredible. So that's why we need feminist AI. We need transformative solutions. We need to just, take a deep look, be aware of the, create awareness of these issues and see how we can change them, how we can move forward, not just acknowledge them, not mitigate them, but really work on constructive change in new constructs based on principles, as I mentioned, of feminist AI, human-centric structures, cognizant of realities, context-specific, and really inclusive and benefiting the different communities. So we need the gender framing is crucial for feminist AI, but we need proactive steps that are really take us to bring change, transformation to move forward. We need to push the bar, perhaps be a little or a lot confrontational, as appropriate and as strategic. And we need feminists in technology. We need to build our human capacity to make sure that we have feminist women and men, and making the appropriate solutions and putting them to action. It's a multi-stakeholder approach. It's not only for technologists, not only for academics or it's everyone, government, civil society, beneficiaries, businesses to be included. And we need to work together. So it's an open invitation to collaborate. I will stop there, and I'll be very happy to hear your questions and the discussions and to learn more about the wonderful work that you are doing at. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rizk. I am opening the mics in the room so people here can ask questions and comment on your presentation. And there's also people online who can raise their hand to ask any question. And I do see Dr. Jennifer has her hand raised, but I just want to mention very briefly that we are very excited to work with you to confirm any type of virtual exchange for fall semester that coordinates with your course. It could be with our media and gender students. It could be public to the whole university. And of course, now is the time to think about collaborative research agendas. And so that's something that I really hope comes out of this presentation. And I also want to thank you dearly for pointing out the ways in which AI is being used in gender transformative ways to correct the kind of biases which I tend to focus on. So it's good to have that happier side of AI could be a union organizer one day. So don't be such a pessimist, okay? So I'm gonna pass the microphone to Jennifer. Jennifer, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. And my apologies for not being there, and I'm in the car. But thank you very, very much for a great presentation. My background is as a political scientist, and I'm also the director of Title IX at LAU, so do a lot of work with gender issues. I I want to say also that, the Arab Institute for Women, CIL, and also, Dr. Gretchen, thanks for making this a very interdisciplinary space, because I think that will probably be the best way that we can try to address these many issues. So something that really resonated with me doing work in the region, although in many ways it's a global phenomenon, is the kind of the poverty of data. That either we have bad data, say it's not disaggregate, they don't collect information on gender, on sex, or they don't disaggregate it well. That's definitely a problem in Lebanon. I think it's a big problem from what I know in Egypt. Increasingly, it will be in the United States because they're getting rid of funding for people to even break down things by gender. So I just wanted to ask what your thoughts are of how you can spur such data collection and also work to have data be shared. And my apologies, I'm about to head into the tunnel on the ring, so I may lose connection for a moment, but I'll be back. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Nagla, any response so far?
Thank you so much, Jennifer, and I salute your, participation on the road. I have a lot of appreciation for that, so thank you so much. And for the question, it's a great point, and I think I have a couple of maybe 2 or 3 things to say. I agree with you totally that data is an issue in our part of the world, and it's politicized, and it's it's not available. And if you check the data on the Open Data Barometer, for example, you find that our region is faring very poorly. Now, also the sad part is that data becomes an asset, and it becomes a tool for concentration by governments, by regimes, as I'm sure you can, you can relate to that as political scientists, and market concentration by large companies. So the challenge here is how can we encourage data-driven entrepreneurship by small and medium enterprises, and have a way where we can create reliable and disaggregated data. One thing we have worked on in our very first phases of this research, I think we started 2015, was supporting innovative data collection mechanisms. So data collection on the ground, where people like crowdsourcing of data, and having the agile small entrepreneurs, data-driven entrepreneurs work with data initiatives. So these come from the grounds up. They can be handled rather than being controlled top-down from either the government or from large companies who hoard data and just have a hard clamp on them. What I call the data lock. It's locked by states or by large companies. But data-driven innovation exists, and it can take place. And again, from our experience with gig companies, ride-sharing companies, and actually different platform-based companies in Egypt, and this was also found the same conclusion in South Africa, is when you have local companies working with data and with workers, there is appetite, there is reception to our requests for fair working practices, for a data protection policy, for inclusion. So I think the way out in the context, the reality that we are living in, is to work with organic entrepreneurs, homegrown, where they can actually focus on data-driven entrepreneurship and see what you can do from that angle. So work grounds up rather than work top down. I hope I have addressed your point. These are my thoughts, and this I always think in a practical way and strategic way. How can we get an outcome given the context that we are living? Thank you so much.
Jennifer puts a thumbs up to your answer. I see we have another question online, but I just want to pass it to the room just to see if anyone in the room has a question or a comment. Listening. Samuel, please just pull the microphone a little closer.
Hi, Nagla. Thank you so much for such an insightful presentation and topic. I think we've always talked now, recently we've been talking about improving AI literacy. I think what we really need to improve is feminist AI literacy and to spread the word out there. As you said, I think that should be a collaboration between not only academician, but between academician, industry, and even public sector, such as ministry, because not everybody knows about this kind of feminist bias and feminist AI. Personally, it's the first time I hear about it, and I'm like into women empowerment, and I'm part of the Lebanese League for Women and all of that. So it's really an eye-opener. Now, do you have like a strategy to ensure that it's a big project? It's not only a research, it's a huge project. So do you have a clear strategy with clear deliverables and like timeline of like, where do you want to reach and when and how?
That's a great question, and you know, a huge endeavor which we would like to embark on. I can't say that we have done that, but let me tell you in all modesty that, like you, when I was invited to join the Feminist AI Network, I had to learn, like you. I mean, I've always been I can even call myself a feminist, you know, women's rights and advocate for women's rights and gender and all of this. But in getting to work on this topic, I did my own, homework. I had to go and study and understand. And what is the difference between gender equality and feminist AI, you know, AI for gender equality. And all of this, it took me, I got to understand, and I'm very passionate about it. So as you say, to your first point, the fact that it's multi-stakeholder, absolutely, definitely. And you need to raise actually awareness and literacy, sometimes even for policymakers, because this may not be a priority. I mean, there are programs for, you know, women in technology or gender empowerment generally, but to focus on this particular part, to look at the algorithms and what they do and their impact, and govern that kind of the process, that needs special effort, like you and I have learned as we get into that. So I mean, I cannot say that we have a strategy, but this is certainly something to plan and to work towards. As I said, the phase of the previous project was finished, so we are in the process of, you know, working to, you know, sort of move forward and see what we can do. Our interest is always in gender, and AI does not stop. And as I mentioned on our, I think it just, the picture was not showing well on the slide, but if you go, and I invite you to check our MENA Observatory, you will find a very clear row of pictures, gender and AI as a theme, and a permanent window for feminist AI to make sure that we show this. But so to answer your question, in all honesty, we have not yet done a strategy and deliverables, but it's a great suggestion and certainly an invitation for us to think about that and involve different stakeholders with pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to pass the microphone to Zina, who's been waiting patiently to ask her question. Dr. Zina Sawaf from Gender Studies. I also want to mention that the Feminist Principles of the Internet that I stated at the start was a global project facilitated by the Association for Progressive Communication, and I put the link in the chat. It's something that was developed many years ago, but I just mentioned it as part of the long history of feminist engagement with digital technologies. Dr. Swab?
Hi, thanks for everyone who organized this really exciting talk, and thank you, Dr. Rizk, for all this exciting work you're doing. I just have a question, and I think it kind of echoes what Jennifer was asking, like how can I mean, I know it's like an uphill battle, like making AI feminist, but you know, sometimes even the categories or the data that we actually have that is not even feminist. So how do we even go about making AI feminist when like the categories and data we have originally are not feminist? Like, let's talk, you mentioned like women's employment in the Arab world, or, you know, labor force participation being so low. But we also know that even those rates are not representative. We know that women work informally. We know that women work irregularly. We know that women do all the care work that is not even recognized as work. So even our categories and the data we have to start with are not feminist. So, you know, what do we do with that?
Thank you, Zina, for the question. I think this is precisely what we are doing within the network. These are questions that we want to research, you know. I mean, given the topic is relatively new, with that special focus, And for our region, this is what I invite everyone to work on together. Let's work on this together. I mean, we don't have the answers, and I mean, some of these issues are global, and of course, in our region may be magnified, and our region may have additional issues of their own. I mean, as I said, context matters, you know. So this is precisely why we need research in the region, from the region, by people who are living in the region, who are concerned about the region, who are aware of the nuances of these issues. That's the kind of research that we need to come up with. You know, there are plenty of questions, and we don't yet have the answers to everything. The one ray of hope, because we were looking at statistics, and I will read you that. I mean, I was very pleased to see that, for example, in the MENA region, women in STEM education, the graduates, the percentages are higher than the global average. So in the percentages in MENA, the quoted percentages by international organizations, 57% of STEM graduates are women. You know, in Africa, they're 47%, and the global average is 35%. And then in the workforce, it's always like this. Women graduate, but the workforce figures are less. Okay, so all the workforce for MENA, for everywhere, are less than the graduation. But never mind. Still, in MENA, the percentages are not low. They're higher than the global averages. So we do have women, you know, makers of the technology. I'm not suggesting that every, you know, feminist has to be made, technology has to be made only by women, but it makes a difference to see the kind of women in educated women, the awareness that is there, and the different partners who can take this forward. So again, this is only STEM, the technology, but stepping out and people, you know, it is a multidisciplinary, and you know, we come from different disciplines. This is the point of having a network of people who are interested in this. We have already started this network since we began. So I'm delighted. I mean, when I saw the invitation, I accepted with absolute pleasure, because this is precisely why we need to get everyone together. We are, you know, please email me, email us at the center, and we are expanding. My team are on this call as well. I know members of my team are listening in. So we need to, you know, expand our network, and this is a fantastic opportunity. We do have partners in Lebanon, but I have not had the pleasure and honor of working with partners at LAU. So please, and we think of these questions together, and we proceed for sure.
That's great. I'm going to pass the comments or questions to Jordan in the room. And I just want to add too that there's several feminist organizations who are on the call. So organizations based in Lebanon. So definitely the discussion that's been raised about the needs for feminists to have training on AI literacy, but also more trainings and sharing knowledge about feminist AI projects. You mentioned several, you know, whether it's research projects or the practical applications, like the chatbots who are giving personal safety tips and so on and so forth. All of this, these examples could inspire local practice of feminist AI. So definitely we need to make plans going forward for more research and knowledge mobilization. Jordan?
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm Jordan Swer, Assistant Provost for Educational Resources and Innovation at LAU. And thank you, a big time thank you to both of you, and especially Gretchen. She's been amazing organizing all of this at LAU and you know, making sure that we have a good full virtual room, if not an in-person room. So thank you so much. Also, I'm going to give a big shout out to the LAU Libraries that has a copy of Invisible Women. So if you would like to read not only an electronic copy, but a real honest to gosh copy, the LAU Libraries can help you out there. But to get to my question that I hope you can help us with, it really broke a lot of our hearts here at LAU when a couple of weeks back we were on an AI task force meeting, and we had members of the upper administration with us on that call. And when we talked very excitedly about our upcoming Feminist AI event with you, the remark was made, oh, that's kind of niche. And of course that was really, you know, ruffled a lot of feathers amongst many of us. So I'm wondering if you could speak from your experience at AUC, how you were able to get the energy, the momentum to build this network, to make it work, and what we can do. I mean, collaborating is awesome, but what we can do to make sure that our administration buys in as well.
Oh, Great. I mean, I thank you for the question. And yeah, I mean, I've been at AUC for a long time, and I wore the hat of the administration several years ago. But now I'm on, along with my academic role. So I totally hear you and understand when you try to get things through. Okay, let me maybe walk you through how this happened first. We've always worked on gender issues. I think feminist AI scares, I mean, the niche I would suspect, and you can correct me if I'm wrong when you say feminist AI, that sort of scares people a bit. And it is more proactive. When you say gender inclusion, that sort of, that passes. So I mean, the way things have happened organically is that we have always worked on the gender inclusion angle of our projects. Our center is just celebrated 15 years old last February, and working with our partners, with our funders, we were sometimes alerted to say, what is the gender angle of your research? That's in the very beginning. So we go back and we look, which was a learning process, and again, it corresponds to our interests and my own personal, outside my academic career, my own personal inclinations and activism and so on. So it started with being interested in the gender angle, etc. And then when we were invited to serve as the MENA Hub, we had conversations with our funders. We were working with Canada's IDRC already on a lot of work, and this came up, and I said with pleasure. And as I said earlier, I educated myself more about what. Okay, so I know gender and AI. What does the feminist AI? So I learned, and we started looking for researchers. And part of our work in the first phase was, and I know my team members are here to attest to that, is finding people who A, understand what we want to do, and B, are interested to take this further. So we were actually supporting. We had modest funding, but we were looking for people to do research, and we found them, research and pilot, and prototype. So we found the two projects that I mentioned. One of them made it to a paper, and then the phase was finished. But the other one about the educating girls just flew and did very well. And there is Dr. Marwa, our partner, is actually doing her PhD in explainable AI. So that's like the real, power behind the technological side of things as well. So gradually, we did this anyway because we had the funding. So of course, when you have, funding, that's always something very nice. It was modest funding, and now we are in the process of, resuming for the next phase. We did not ask the university for anything. Let me be very blunt. We did not ask for anything. We had, the funding, and we did our activities. So there wasn't really something that we needed. We're very happy to have the blessings. But I should also say that we are based at the School of Business of the American University in Cairo. And our school has just been named the Onsi Sawiri School of Business with a very nice gift. And I really shout out to my dean, Dr. Sharif Kamel, who's been working on this for years, a gift to our school. And it's really it has among its overall is to promote AI in the business, in education, in Egypt and the region. So AI is part of that. So I think that we were lucky in the sense that it is, gaining, acceptance and support. My suggestion would be to sort of start making those additional, meetings, internal meetings, webinars, without asking members of the, the administration for anything, to just attend, maybe share, share experiences, share research interests elsewhere, what others are doing, and people gradually get to it. But it does not surprise me, because I would, perhaps you may get that response also at the level of policy making. Maybe in some countries when you say, this is sort of a luxury niche, let's work on gender inclusion. So it is up to you to be strategic. Maybe start with gender-related issues and then develop gradually. This is what happened with us, and it just happened. And, now we are just, as I said, it's very close to my heart. And I proposed the course and it was accepted. And my wonderful chair said, I'll come and listen in on the classes. I said, yes, please do come with pleasure. So it catches on gradually. So don't give up. That's for sure.
controlling them. Thank you so very much for that. And I think that is a really clear mission I want to put out for everybody on this call, especially from LAU, and then of course collaborative, that perhaps one of our first steps should be to look for funding for a grant, form around a project, get a grant, and once that money's on the table, everybody will be knocking at our door, and we won't be able to keep them back. I think that's excellent advice. Thank you. So much. And please do continue. I just want to apologize in advance. I'm going to have to leave to another meeting here in like 2 minutes, but I will listen for the next 2 minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I do have a follow-up question, if I may, on this, because fingers crossed, we may have, the next phase, we may have a modest fund for some activities. So by all means, I'm not, we're not there yet, but with absolute pleasure, we engage even small activities that just, cements the network together, and then we take it from there. So I hope also that could be one way of us to put our efforts in one direction and work together.
Yeah, I mean, I think that our seminar today has definitely highlighted through your work, your presentation, that there are gender biases that people need to be more aware of. There was a question on the chat, which I answered based on information you shared during your presentation about, could you give some examples of AI bias? You gave many examples of biases related to AI. And I do think that there's lots of ways in which, as I said, feminists have always been involved in correcting gender bias in digital technologies. For example, feminists gather and hack Wikipedia and add women and other issues concerning gender equality to Wikipedia by either editing pages or creating whole new pages. And Wikipedia happens to be one of the sources for ChatGPT and other chatbots that are sourcing from the internet. So there are all sorts of ways that old methods of feminist hacking digital technologies will impact what the future of AI is. So there's definitely strategies from the past that we can build on in the present. And then in addition to that, I think the case studies that you emphasized about the ways in which feminists are building AI technologies informed by feminist politics are to do feminist politics. I think that is something that we can certainly deliver through seminars and raise awareness about, just by means of spreading education awareness and hopefully inspiring people to do similar projects. But on the research side, I do think it's really important, as someone who studies representations and often focusing on negative stereotypical gender representations, for example, we always do look at what are feminist media examples, what are the ways in which feminists are trying to transform media representations to promote more gender justice. And so, while studying and understanding bias and how it works is extremely necessary from the perspective of students, but also the perspective of moving society forward, we should ultimately also be just as invested in researching positive uses of AIs that are contributing to more inclusion, and inclusion that benefits all genders. So thank you very much for that. I do want to point to a question from a data science student. So whoop, whoop, the future of AI is in your hands, data science student. So Farah is asking, I'd like to know more about how to include women in the data set and algorithms. Do you think we should regenerate or recollect data and update AI algorithms?
I lost you, Gretchen. Is that my internet or yours?
I'm not sure. It's okay. So
yeah.
it's the first. Yeah, so I'll just repeat the question. It's from a data science student wanting to know if we should regenerate and recollect data or update the AI algorithms to include more women in the data set and algorithms.
Okay, let me try to answer this as much as to my technical ability. I think the latter is an easy one to say. It shouldn't be one or more, one or either one. I mean, either or. So the latter, if I understood this correctly and I heard it properly, is to include more women in the structure, in building the algorithms, right? Did I hear that right? That was the second suggestion, right?
So I think, sorry, I keep hitting the. Okay, so this is the right button. So the question is, I'd like to know more about how to include women in the data set and algorithms. Is it about regenerating, recollecting the data, or is it about updating the AI algorithm?
Okay. My understanding is that it should not be either one or the other. It should be both. My understanding is that the data should be responsible, should be accurate, should be disaggregated, should be anonymous, should be representative, inclusive. It is mirroring what is happening on the ground without jeopardizing anyone's safety, security, or privacy. So definitely, what depends. For that, you need the right legislation. You have the right tools, and you have the means to achieve that. Now, this will depend from one context to differ from one context to the next. Now, updating the algorithm again. I mean, what I am now being told that eventually algorithms will not even be informed by humans. People in technology, they say super intelligent algorithms are just going to train themselves, which is a scary thought, right? So I'm not sure we should choose one or the other. In an ideal world, if we see this production process, like data being collected or used that is there, and that it is taken to train an algorithm, and then an output comes out, and the output affects people's lives. In all of this value chain, you want to make sure that the principles of responsibility are ensured. So you want to have responsible data that are representative, again, accurate, transparent, disaggregated, anonymized, etc. And I'm reading the text of the question. And you also want to have algorithms that are humanized, that are also subject to audit, that are fair, and that are created responding to the needs of the beneficiaries by the different stakeholders, etc. The example I liked very much was that IBM uses in its toolkit, a set of standards, suggested metrics by researchers. So in our work, to give you an example on responsible AI in Egypt, we're running through the Observatory, we're running a series of roundtables to implement the principles of responsible AI in Egypt's AI charter. And we're looking at alternative ways of incentivizing companies to adopt responsible AI in their algorithms, in their practices, in their principles. So it is a full process. So I don't see this as one or the other. It is just a full integrated process of ensuring, as an overarching philosophy or principles of responsible AI, making sure that this is as it pertains to women and other marginalized groups, to have the feminist inclusion principles in them. I hope that answers your question. But if I may, Gretchen, I wanted to also make a couple of points. I remembered an example of data that is collected grounds up, and in all honesty, it started a long time ago. It's called HarassMap in Egypt, and it was collecting data, crowdsourcing data for women if they are subject to harassment using mobile phones, and that's really a pioneer because it started, I would say, maybe about almost 10 years ago. So that's a way of data created for women's safety. Also, I wanted to mention that our work on gig work in the MENA region was supported by Ford Foundation for the Arab world. So that was an opportunity for us to develop teams, in the different countries and run in parallel a series of fieldwork research looking at, the workers in the platform-based economy. May they be working on the ground or in the cloud. And also extending from work that we did for Egypt earlier as part of the Fair Work Network with Oxford Internet Institute. So and actually one of them was about female domestic workers in MENA. So the different pieces fit together, and that is why I really, really hope that we can do activities together in our next phase of the working towards gender feminist AI, or we're going to call it gender equality, depending on what how the project will be framed. But it's really taking our work forward, and even today within the observatory we do have a feminist AI window that is up for activity anytime, for joint webinars or activities. Maybe in the fall, if we can plan for something in the fall and discuss it over the summer, I would really love that.
100%. I did put the link to Harass Map on the chat for anyone that's interested that's not aware of this crowdsourcing map of sexual harassment from Egypt. We also have a similar map in Lebanon called Harass Tracker. I also put that link on the chat. Again, if feminists do something somewhere, it spreads like wildfire. So all the more reason to get started on feminist AI and help spread that fire. Miriam Spear, you have a question in the room.
Much, Dr. Rizk. I have to admit this is not an area that I'm very knowledgeable about. I'm very excited to be in this event and to see how we can like strategize more with Gretchen and with LEU to work further on this thematic area. I have one suggestion and a question. On the level of sustainability, and as we might well know, funding is dwindling, etc., and there's a lot of scarcity in terms of funding. So on sustainability, do you actually always need funding to sustain such a project? So this is one. And also maybe we can have, maybe we can join our efforts and have a special issue because we have a journal that's been published since 1976 called Al-Raida. It's not fully refereed, but it contains like testimonials from people from the field and activists, as well as like thematic discussions, as well as academic papers. So maybe we can have something that's there whereby your students and others from our university, as well as professors, and we'd have maybe a framework article on the importance and on the issues related to our region, on the level of like also credibility of sources and the way we are viewed as like people from this region, the Arab region.
That's great. Thank you so much for your suggestions and the question. Certainly, collaboration is highly welcome and with absolute pleasure. We are a small team, but we are efficient. We are an all-women's team, by the way, and we are efficient. Let's plan for an activity. And I think if we can have something concrete that takes place maybe in the fall, so we can plan for it in the summer months. But I'm open with pleasure. Regarding the sustainability, for sure. What happens is that, let me show you, I'm trying to, I was hoping to show you, yeah, this is what I want to share on my screen, because this, you will see on our observatory, and I hope you can see my screen, even without even the screen. So you see here, this is the observatory page, and here is where we have gender and AI. These are different activities, but this is specifically for, I'm not sure how much it shows, but for feminist AI. So the reason I do that is that we are anyway interested in doing our activities, whether or not hopefully we will, in having our next phase of the project, with some modest support to take forward. As you say, the funding situation, of course, globally is, becoming challenging, but we are hoping that we can resume our activities even on a smaller scale, but we'd like to do that with partners in the region. So one thing we can do for sure, and there are easy wins, is to develop these webinars, is to share our experiences as a starting point for sure. Now, in our funding, we're very happy to, in our funding proposals that we're working on now, we're very happy to, we show our partners and to engage that, our network is growing, and we're very happy to have you, LAU as part of our network. So this is something we hope to achieve. And my experience, in all honesty, is that, we start small and then we grow, and we really do a lot with limited resources, and work proves itself. When we do good work with limited resources, then it brings more and more and more resources. So it never stops us. And as I say, right now, even from within the observatory, we are able to have, some activities on feminist AI. And of course, I go back to my team and we strategize. But certainly, this is something that is A, on our agenda, and B, very close to my heart personally. I think this subject is very, very important. And to find like-minded people is very important. By the way, I know people from APC from a long time ago in South Africa. I worked with them many years ago. So it rang a bell when you mentioned. I thought it was something that was specifically done at LAU, but we're very happy to, take that up and have webinars. We also work closely with the Africa Observatory on Responsible AI, and we have joint webinars every 2 months. So we've had webinars on gender and AI, and so that's it. As I said, it fits with the different activities that we do. So it's a flow that we are very eager to continue to sustain. And if we get more resources, that's even better.
Yeah, I think what you're highlighting is that there are many examples of feminists working in the global South on this topic of feminist AI. In fact, the first time that I heard about feminist AI was at a conference in Malaysia from a participant from Africa. So it is across this region that this topic is spreading, and also this work and this interest is spreading. I just wanted to point out, I put a link to Al Raida Journal in the chat for anyone that's interested to check that out. And the examples you showed us, the feminist AI from the MENA Observatory website, I also put that in the chat as well, just so people have access to the links. A final closing question comes from Luther in our strategic communication office, asking about how can we circumvent, once we acknowledge and research and study the risk of AI, how can we prevent these initiatives from being co-opted by certain agendas, and then become tokenized inclusion without actually supporting structural change? So I think that's ultimately a question for every feminist everywhere, but we're going to put it to you as our guest and host and expert for the day on feminist AI. What can we do with feminist AI to prevent it from being co-opted by states, corporations, evil administrations of universities? I have no idea. Going in the future, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's a difficult question, but my thoughts is that the philosophy of feminist AI itself, if it is faithfully adhered to, it may not be, very much liked or favored by, those who would like to take it over. The challenge here is that the label would be taken and then misrepresented, and I guess that's what the question is, steering us towards. It's a difficult issue, but the thought that comes to my mind is this: we have to govern our work and be very aware of what's happening and to work together. I think, rather than doing individual initiatives, just working together as a coalition makes a big difference. Then we are stronger together, and we make sure that our work is well, used and benefits the right beneficiaries and moves forward in the right way. That's the only thing I can think of at this point.
I think it's a great answer, and it's also a great note to leave off on, that we must work together. Therefore, we will meet again, and we will strategize on working together. So thank you very much, Dr. Rizk, for joining us today. Thank you to your students who joined us. Thank you to the entire LAU community for joining us on this call, or at least the ones who did, not the entire community. But thank you for those who showed up. And I do look forward to meeting you again in the future and discussing all of the things we talked about, definitely over the summer, to make very specific plans for fall. Any final words, Dr. Rizk?
Yes, if I may, yes, thank you. I want to thank you, Gretchen, and all the members of the LAU for your wonderful hospitality and your great questions, the audience. I also want to thank my team, the Access to Knowledge for Development Center and the MENA Observatory, and a shout out to Nada Nassar, who worked very closely with me diligently on developing the slides, she and Khadija. So I'm very grateful to them and to all the members of my team. May we always move forward to promote our philosophies for feminist AI and all else inclusive.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Have a good day. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye now. I want to thank, sorry, Gretchen, I want to thank my students. I want to thank my students too. Forgot about that. Sorry.
Okay, no worries. They were double thanked by you and me, so they should feel very appreciated today.
I'm very proud. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you again, Dr. Rizk. We'll talk soon. Thank you again. Bye-bye.
Do you have statistics?